Bienvenidos a la 10-Minute Tuesday. And this week we have Joey and Carter, all three of us in studio.
Clark
Deny.
Yep.
In studio. And this week we're going to talk about the changes that you can make mid-hunt if things aren't going well. And some of the things guys do, it seems like the first thing guys do, that typically doesn't always produce great results for you. So I can kind of kick things off a little bit here.
Please do, son.
I think, in my opinion, the
Son.
first thing that people do when you're having a hunt that is not going your way, whether it's a field that you know is an X or that you thought had a ton of birds in it or was going to be good, the first thing people do is they change their decoy spread. And I think that that is something that, unless you feel like the spread you set in the middle of the darkness looks absolutely horrible, typically I just think that it doesn't produce that great of results. But I would love to hear what your opinion is, especially I would like to know, hunting with some of the people you grew up with hunting with, Joey, how often did you see those guys changing the spread they had set partway through a hunt, and did it make a difference?
Well, back in the day, it was more so like we would go in steps, right? So they're not doing it right. It's like, okay, the first thing to change was your calling, because those guys were super good callers. And so they would like instantly, everyone wants to blow their calls, right?
Yeah.
But those guys were so good, and they'd been doing it for so long, which is just the exact opposite of what we do, that they would do like practically none. And they would try to find the right note to make them drop. And a lot of times, And a lot of times they would find that note, and there was just like no questions, But they were Pete, Adam, Grady were like very serious about their calling, like to a level I've never seen still to this day. And they would be like, you shut up. I'm going to do this. And then if that didn't work, then we're all calling. So they would start with less is more and then work towards what they needed, right? Whereas today we do a lot of calling, and it's like, why aren't they coming in? Well, let's not call, when they lock their wings.
True.
So they would focus on calling first, and then they would switch to decoy spread. But that usually was because not enough people were getting like a good shot on them.
So you're trying to open it up for a longer run.
Right. Well,
or
they were
better
like
positioning.
a good percentage of a kill shot with X amount of people shooting.
Sure.
It's not that birds weren't coming in.
Sure.
It's just like the right side is hammering birds for the last 4 shots. Let's open up the middle so that everyone can shoot.
Makes
type of a
sense.
deal. But yeah, I'm not going to change the decoy spread. That is the last thing that I'm going to do, because how many times have you just watched birds hover over you and they're like, eh,
Yeah.
And so it's more than likely your hide. That is like the number 1 to 2 thing. Are you in the right spot? Number 1. Yes or no? No, we're not on the X, but we're right under like the flight line. Cool. They're still not coming in. It's probably your hide.
Yeah. I was going to say, we talked a little about this to start, and the biggest change that I've seen in the way that birds will react to you isn't the decoy spread. It's, you have to ask the tough question. And the reason that people don't want to ask it, dude, is because it fucking sucks to move your whole setup, right? But the times that we've felt, or that I've felt in a situation that if we just were able to move or shift our hide, and sometimes it's because of the natural surroundings. So once the sun kind of comes up, sometimes you notice that maybe there's like a field edge, and there's a big berm, right? And so that area, you didn't really notice it in the dark quite as well. But then as you kind of get into the day, and birds don't want to finish because they are over the top of you and your hide sucks. And then you notice, though, that down the line, there's a lot more tall grass or tree cover or something. Putting yourself in that position and being able to move the whole spread, it sucks. But if birds don't see you anymore, or they can't fly on top of you or around you because there's a tree that's covering you, now you've put yourself in a way better situation than you would have if you stayed and moved your decoys a little bit. So the biggest change that I've ever seen when you're hunting, mid-hunt, having a huge trouble is moving your whole spread, moving your setup.
Right. Well, and to touch on that too, there's a huge difference between water and field. And it seems like every time we field hunt, man, it's like, oh, we need to move these 20 decoys over to there. It's like, dude, that was one flock. That was 2 flocks, But water hunting, it's when the bird is dancing over your decoys and is trying to figure out where to land, and it's just not doing it. Like, you could shoot it at any point.
Yeah.
Especially like the scout bird, for example. That first bird of the morning, and it can't figure out where to land, and then it just peels out of there.
Yeah.
It's like, something's up with the spread. Like, if you do this long enough, you can understand why it's not working.
Are they hovering over the top of you, looking at you? Like you said, are they hovering over your decoys, don't know how to land in them?
Right. Well, and ducks, pretty much any waterfowl. Like, you can tell a flare versus I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Well,
and I was going to say, too, a lot of this you're talking about, which is the more ideal situation, where you fooled the bird to come and check you out, and they've either they're, to watch them, right? Are they hovering, like you said, are they hovering over the top of you, or are they hovering over the top of the decoys? Are they having trouble getting in the spread, or are they having trouble believing that you're not a person that blind?
Right. But are they hovering 20 feet over your decoys, or are they sitting above you at 80 yards?
But how many times have you hunted with dudes where the birds don't come within 400 yards of you, right? Dude. You can see them, but they don't even come within 400 yards of you, and then immediately dudes are like, nope, they don't like it. Something ain't right. So that is a situation where I'm just going to say you could change the decoys 100 times that day. Either you don't have enough decoys or you have too many decoys, but if they're not even coming to check you out, moving 10 decoys or 20 decoys, that will change nothing for you.
They're not your birds.
If you are calling at them and they're 400 yards out and they're not coming to look at you, that will not change anything for you.
Right. And I think that's the tough part for a lot of people. And like I've said on previous podcasts and videos and shit, is you just have to understand, like, you have to get out there so much to, like, understand a bird with the brain the size of a pea.
Yeah.
And you just have to trial and error so many times to understand what a flare looks like versus a not interested looks like versus you're in the wrong spot, period.
Totally.
You have to understand, hey, we should have not used spinning wing decoys today. They were sitting 80 yards above the spinning wing decoys, and then they peeled out of there. So then you have to understand, it might be the spinning wing decoys. But honestly, man, nobody really knows because they're freaking birds.
They're birds.
They're birds.
First thing,
you just have to run through the options, and obviously the lazy / easiest thing to do is to, like, hey, let's not call as much. Yeah. Cool. Hey, we have 6 guys in the blind. Not 6 guys need to duck call.
Yeah.
We're just throwing a wall of sound out there, especially with geese. People throw a wall of sound out there. It's like, cool. Let's work through the things that we can control and then figure out if it's the decoy spread or not.
Yeah. For me, first thing you check is your hide. You too? Mm-hmm. Is that your first thing?
Mm-hmm.
So you're kind of going like hide, then calling.
I feel like I do a really good job when we're blinding it in, or I know it's my hide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times though where it's like an awkward conversation where you're like, hey dude, they're seeing us, and people are like, no man, it's not that. And then when you look at the video though or something, it's a black hole. It'd be a black hole above you, and you're like, what the f-?
Well, that's where you just take your experience and you don't say shit, especially if you know that you're going to get that opposition. It's just like you just walk over their blind and you start putting grass in.
You just brush it for them.
Is it bad? Like, that's what they say every time.
True.
They will never say, hey, man, I got plenty of grass. Never.
No.
Ever. If you just go over there and start grassing, they're like, oh, is it bad? And it's like, yeah, it could be better. And they're just like, oh, shit, okay. Well, there's no birds flying right now. Well, there's some grass over there. I think that's, 99% of it is your hide.
Yeah.
99%.
If they're coming to check you out. Now, if they're 400 yards away, bud, just not coming. So
Right. No, it's fine.
'Kay.
But anyway, hopefully you guys learned something on this 10-minute Tuesday. Thank you so much for listening. Don't subscribe. Don't leave a review on the podcast. You know?
that'd suck. That would suck for us.
And don't drink Outlaw beer.
Yeah,
Don't do it. It's
really
too
bad for
good.
you.
It's too good.
You're gonna love it too much.
I need it. You don't need it.
All right, thanks for listening. See you guys.